dear Bagginses and Boffins.
Welcome back, everyone. We are responding to your comments like I promised we would. I replied to some of you guys already in the comments, but we wanted to take some time and do a video for you guys. So, one of our biggest fans, Roy Cyberpunk, has commented on quite a few of our videos, and so we want to take this time to address some of the issues that they are shedding some light on. And I think this one, we've actually talked about this a little bit in this video, a little bit in the other ones, which is there is a lot of lore found within the books that they do have the rights to that they could easily tell stories about people of color in other parts of Middle-earth. And I completely agree with that. I think those areas are underexplored. And even if Amazon, let's in a perfect world, Amazon makes this show, introduces people of color as dwarves, as elves, as everything, and it goes off without a hitch. They still have the issue that within the films anyway, all we really have are the people of color that are working for evil.
Right.
I think it would be nice to see a story set there where we see that they're not all evil. So I agree with that comment. I think they chose not to go there because we wouldn't recognize any characters from there. They wanted to include Galadriel, Elrond, dwarves that we know of from the Hobbit. So they chose to stay away from areas that are underdeveloped in Tolkien lore. And so, yeah, I agree. I think that would have been a cool idea for a story there, Roy. Anything there? We get to see more elephants.
I agree a lot.
Yeah.
Actually, that would have been great.
Yeah, I mean, Roy talks about how
have more mythical creatures too, like a rock.
Yeah, exactly. Roy talks about the
Yeah.
rock that can go toe to toe with Smaug, which was actually a mythical creature from a real world, as well. So it would scratch everybody's itch. So yeah, I think Roy brings up a really good point here, and that's why I gave it a thumbs up. Roy, if you're watching this one, good job on that one. I really agree. All right, on to on to the next one. So this is let me find this one. Here we go. This is a cool one from Roy again. In fact, I probably have to read this one. We made a promise to ourselves at the beginning of the process that we weren't going to put any of our own politics, our own messages, or our own themes into these movies. What we were trying to do was to analyze what was important to Tolkien and to try to honor that. In a way, we were trying to make these films for him, not ourselves. That's from Peter Jackson, talking about the creation of the original trilogy. And it seems like, I mean, I see what Roy is trying to say here. So Roy is essentially basically saying that like Jackson was clearly going out of his way to make it somewhat true to Tolkien's themes, at least, and not bring any modern day themes, 2001, like early 2000s modern day themes into the movies. It's not entirely true, though. He kind of did, because he does change Aragorn, and he changes it because of our modern day understanding of a hero. So in modern films, we want our hero to have some reluctance. And without that reluctance, Aragorn would lose a lot of the character traits that make him such a beloved character that every single meme is either about him or it's about the quality of the fellowship, and it's literally Sam and Aragorn side by side and everyone else is just nothing. Like, that's how much people respect Aragorn. And I think it's ultimately because Peter Jackson changes his character based on our modern day understanding of heroes.
Yeah.
So while I agree with Peter Jackson's sentiment, I think Jackson was smart in how he handled it. Similar to that, he also includes Arwen more than she is in the books. And that's because we want we want more women in films. So he includes her in a part that is actually an elf man that's in the books. And I know people are sometimes upset about this part, but to me it works. It doesn't take anything away from it. And it, as we talked about before, because Aragorn is already going to be the reluctant king, it allows Arwen to have more of an early role, so that when she does have that impactful change of heart, or I guess change of mind, because her heart was always in the right place, but she understands that there is hope. Because we've already established Arwen as a character from earlier on in the series, we are already familiar with her struggles, with her ideals, and so I think that's an important change as well that Peter makes based on our modern day interpretation of how to tell that kind of story. Tolkien has a lot of characters that do one-offs, and that's not really conducive to modern storytelling. As much as I do enjoy the books, I don't think Tom Bombadil would have been a good character in the films, because his part is so off the main plot that it would leave moviegoers with no background to the books completely baffled about what was going on there.
Right.
And so
I don't know if it's quite the same thing though, because that is merging characters and having one, like, Game of Thrones also has one-off characters that kind of get merged into
that's right.
a few people into one, and so that's kind of a common convention in making an adaptation, and it would still be considered a faithful adaptation what Jackson did, I think, in that context.
See, this is where I agree with you, but I think a lot of people, not a lot, there is some people that disagree with us in that Arwen shouldn't have had that role, because that way we get no we get 0 scenes with elf heroes that are in the books. And they're sitting in the chair beside Elrond at the council. They don't say anything, and people are mad about that. So while I agree, I think it is more of a, like, it just, that's how you do a story. That's how you convert a book to a film or book to a show. I do think some people are upset about that, but I think that is our modern interpretation of storytelling. But you're right. Maybe that's not quite where Roy was going with this. But I will say the Aragorn change is massive, and that is exactly against what Tolkien was trying to say with Aragorn in the books.
Yeah.
So I do think ultimately the essence is there, and that's what we love about Peter Jackson's adaptation, is that even with that Aragorn change, the essence of the journey is still there, because it doesn't change the fact that Aragorn is going to join the Fellowship. The only change it makes is that he's not going to, his plan is not to leave the Fellowship with Boromir and go directly to Minas Tirith. That's his plan in the books. But then once Gandalf is killed by the Balrog, and once they encounter the orcs on the shores of the river, he makes a change that he's actually going to go and save the hobbits. But to me, that change, it doesn't take away anything from the overall plot, and the only change it makes is our initial meeting of Aragorn, and he rejects Legolas's idea that he should be king. That's that subtle moment is where the audience gets a better understanding of that character than if it was just some guy who was supposed to be king and he's gonna go be king now. Like it just gives a lot more character to grow than initially having him set out to become king with zero elements to add to him.
Yeah.
So yeah. But I agree with Roy there that was Peter Jackson did do quite a bit to even stuff he changed, he did quite a bit to still give us something that was from the books to those characters, to show that he's listening. He's just changing it subtly to make it work better on film, as we talked about with certain quotes being given to other characters. All right. Next one we've got. Oh, so this one is from. Let's go to Laura's comment. Laura's got a comment here. Is it up here? There it is. All right. So this is one that we talked about it when we were doing a Vanity Fair piece, but yeah, we've got some creators who are potentially pushing a quote unquote message, a modern political or social message, and forcing it in. And I think this ultimately is what Roy was trying to talk about with his comment. And I agree. I think that is going to be a problem if it's just in your face. People are going to see that and get completely turned off. Even if it's a message of good, like even if it's a message to do good, if it's just forced in your face, characters are just like turning to the camera and saying something, like people are just not gonna take that.
I don't want to be preached at. Yeah.
No, exactly. And the thing is, there's a lot of scenes that could have been preachy in Peter Jackson's, but they're not. They're earned, they're authentic, and even if you were to disagree, I don't know how you could disagree with some of those characters, but even if you were to disagree, it's not like the character is like saying either do this or you're the villain. The character's just trying to come to understandings themselves. Like when Sam is making his speeches, he's learning about what it takes to be a hero, what it takes to do good in the world, and he's not preaching. He's just trying to figure out what it all means and trying to impart what he feels is the important bits. So yeah, I think there's a way, if you do want a message in there is a way to make it authentic and have characters that actually feel real who are talking about it. But if it just becomes a character preaching, then it's done. It's wrecked. So let's end with let's see who we're gonna end with. So we got more Roy here. Kind of go to an early one, I think. Let's see. I don't know. Like a lot of these are hard to respond to, right? Because we've got changing established lore is not justified, or the backlash is justified because you're changing established lore.
Right into politics,
yeah, we've kind of talked about that. Like I agree. Like if you're just throwing a message to change these characters, I do kind of agree. But also at the same time, if it doesn't actually change the lore too much, or if it doesn't change the overall plot too much, I have no problem with it. Like it's really a nuanced thing. Yeah. So let's end with this one.
I regret to announce this is the end. I bid you all a very fond farewell.